Hello adventure travellers, and welcome back to the Two Wheels to Everywhere channel. Only 124 days until we hit the road. There's lots to do, there's heaps to tell you, so these episodes are going to be more regular. Stay tuned. Today's episode's on the bike, and specifically the process I took to choose the bike. I may have said before I'd never ridden on an adventure bike before I decided to do this trip. So I'd been on road bikes for 28 years, but road bikes really aren't the best for travelling around the world on. So it was a massive learning curve for me, not only in choosing the bike, but in also learning to ride the bike, which I'm still doing, to be 100% honest with you, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of learning along the way. So without further ado, let's get into how I chose the Suzuki DR650. Over my 28 years of riding, I've owned probably about 10 bikes. Yeah, no more than 10. And as you can see from the little posters behind me, I'm a massive fan of Harley Davidsons. I've had a couple of Harleys, a couple of Kawasaki's, and more than a few Hondas. Honda, it really is my go-to, just because they're so well made and so reliable. My first bike was a Honda VT250 back in the day. I had a Honda VFR 750 for a good 9 years, and I've had two Honda Firestorms, which are VTR 1000 twins. Really good bikes, really grunty. So it just made sense that I'd get on a Honda Africa Twin. I found a 2016 Honda Africa Twin 1000 at the local dealer. It had all the fruit on it. It had the bags, it had loads of extras, and I was like, this is the bike for me. Keep in mind, I'd never been on an adventure bike in my life. 5 minutes into the test ride, I was shitting myself. It was so big, it was so tall, and I had no idea how to ride an adventure bike. It didn't help that it was really windy that day and it was blowing me around. It was too high, I could only tiptoe, and it scared the hell out of me. So I took it back to the dealer and said thanks, but no thanks. So what to do next? Well, try something a bit smaller, obviously. Back to the computer, doing a bit more research, finding out what's what, and decided that the Yamaha T7 was the top of the pick. So, found a Yamaha T7, relatively new, miles away, drove out there, test rode it, once again. Didn't really know what I was riding, didn't know if it was a good bike or a bad bike. Felt good, it's a bit out of my price range. I'm on a pretty tight budget for this ride, so I thought I'd better try a few more. Then I found Luke Phillips on Instagram. Luke Phillips is an adventure rider. I'm not sure how many years he's been on the road. He's done over 200,000 kilometers on his Honda CB500X, heavily modified, but nonetheless, I was back to Honda, and it was half the size or half the engine capacity of the Africa Twin. Right, this was the bike for me. Found a CB500X at a Honda dealer, went out, took it for a ride. It's a good bike, very good bike, but it was sort of underwhelming. So I'm like, let's see. Thought about it for a bit, and then was like, well, I'll try a few more. Keep in mind, I still had no idea what I was looking for. The riding position, the height, everything is different on adventure bikes than it is to road bikes. For those of you that don't ride, this video might not even be interesting to you, so wait for the next one. But for those of you that are thinking about getting into adventure riding, there could be something useful in here for you. So what next? Well, I went back to the dealer where the Africa Twin was and tested a Kawasaki KLR 650, brand new. Now anybody that knows anything about KLRs knows that they're similar in a lot of ways to the DR650, well they were, but the new KLRs had all the fruit. They had fuel injection, ABS, the new ones came with panniers, crash bars, even spotlights. You don't have to do a thing, you just get on it and start adventuring. And I'd had a couple of Kawasaki's in the past. I had a ZZR 1100, which was far too big for me, and also a GPZ 900, which for those of you bike fans will know, that's the bike that Tom Cruise rode in Top Gun 1. Anyway, I digress. Rode the KLR 650 and it just felt a bit tinny. It felt a bit lightweight, felt a bit plasticky. The engine felt all right, but I just sort of rode it around the block. I didn't really get a feel for it, and I've since spoken to one or two guys that ride them and say that it's quite a heavy bike as well for the power. So anyway, after riding that, I thought, no, it's time to keep looking. So where to from there? Well, scouring through the adventure bike listings on Trade Me, I found a 2011 Yamaha XT660, which those of you who know your bikes will know it's the predecessor to the Tenere T7, and they're pretty good bikes. Those of you who are deep into the adventure riding scene, you might have heard of a couple called Mad or Nomad. Shout out to Andy and Alyssa, who are 5 or 6 years into a 10-year round the world trip. They've done a lot of their riding on an XT660, and I think Andy's had that bike for, I don't know, how long have you had it, Andy? 10 years, 12 years? And just like the T7, they're awesome bikes. They're unbreakable. Anyway, took it for a ride. It was a good bike. I thought it felt a bit lumpy. Little did I know that it's a single cylinder. I thought it was a twin cylinder, so typical ignoramus again. But gave it back and was seriously thinking about it. It had all the fruit on it, once again, like the KLR. But someone else, it was priced well and someone else got in there before me. So I'm like, okay, what's next? I was pretty set on getting something relatively new with the bells and whistles, like fuel injection, twin cylinder, ABS, all that sort of stuff. Something that would be comfortable to ride and reliable, and yeah, just a good all-round bike. But a good mate of mine who's a good rider and also an ex-territorial soldier and just a real hands-on guy has got a Suzuki DR650. So I thought, oh well, you know, I'll just try everything. Anyway, found one relatively new, took it out for a ride on the tar seal, not on the crunchy bits or the slidey bits or what have you, and got it up to a fair speed, and the exhaust was just making this weird sound, the zzz, and I thought, all right, I'm not sure if the exhaust is supposed to sound like this, or don't know what it was, but I thought, no, I'm not going to buy this bike. Without saying anything to the owner, old dumbass here didn't realise that it was the tyres making that sound, not the exhaust. When you put off-road or knobbly tyres onto tar seal and you go fast, they make a zizzing sound. So anyway, I found that out the hard way. Luckily I didn't embarrass myself in front of anyone, well, apart from everyone watching this YouTube channel now. But yeah, I like the DR650, but I still wasn't convinced. So back to the Honda CB500X I went. I found one that had no registration, no warrant of fitness. The guy was leaving the country, but Hondas are pretty much unbreakable. So I thought, right, this is a good chance to get a bike at a good price. I can get it back on the road fairly easily, and I'll be away. What a mistake. Didn't take long to get it roadworthy, just a bit of paperwork, and gave it a bit of a clean, and away we go. Unfortunately, and this is no disrespect to CB500X owners, but the engine was just too uninspiring. And I went back to Luke Phillips' page, and even though I knew he'd modified it for the off-road quite heavily, I knew that even if I put the knobbly tyres on and the suspension and what have you, the engine just, it didn't talk to me. So I was able to sell it for what I got it for, and didn't lose any money on that, which was good, because it was just when all the post-COVID toys, all the jet skis, all the motorbikes, everything that people had bought over COVID were coming back onto the market en masse. Anyway, sold it to a lovely guy who wanted a good commuter bike, and that's exactly what they're perfect for. They are good adventure bikes if you modify them correctly with the suspension and what have you, but I just wanted something with a bit more of a grunty engine. By this time it's January 2023 and I'm starting to panic a little bit because even though I'm over a year away from leaving, there's lots to do. I need to learn, well, I need to get a bike, I need to learn how to ride it, I need to get all the extra bits and pieces for it, set it up, and still work a full-time job as well, so I better get going. Anyway, long story short, back on the internet, don't we do everything on the internet these days, and I decided on a DR650 for good or for bad. What's the worst that could happen? It wasn't quite right like the CB500X, and I sell it. No, I buy something else. Anyway, found this bike. A guy, second owner, had it down in Nelson. I don't think he'd ever ridden it on the road. It had a lot of bells and whistles, such as the bark busters, the rear tailgate, upgraded exhaust, whole lot of bits and pieces which I'll take you through in the next video, and negotiated, got a grand or so off it, and bought it sight unseen. Now, generally you shouldn't buy vehicles sight unseen. In New Zealand, we tend to be a trusting lot, and by and large you're okay if you know what you're looking for. Overall, I am very happy with the bike. The thing that I didn't know, and even if I had been able to view it, my lack of knowledge on adventure bikes, I wouldn't be able to pick it up. The last owner did ride it pretty hard. As I said, I don't think he ever used it on the road. I think it was all for off-roading, and these things are just perfect for off-roading. They're probably the most simple adventure bike on the market. In fact, they're so simple they don't even make it into a lot of adventure bike comparisons. They're more like a farm bike. There's no ABS braking system. They're air-cooled, not water-cooled, which means they don't have a radiator. They're carburetted, they don't have fuel injection, they don't even have a fuel gauge. That's how simple they are. But that's the beauty of them as well. Even someone like me, who's never worked on any of his motorbikes in 28 years, I just ride them on the road and take them to the experts. My rationale being, hey, motorbikes can kill you, so let the experts fix them and you ride them. But when you're riding around the world for a year and a half, you really need to know a thing or two, even about the basics, you know, brake pads, air filters, oil changes. So the DR650 appeals to a lot of riders for that reason, but for that reason as well, some riders don't even consider them adventure bike. They consider them more of a farm bike or just a bike for messing around. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people out there who have ridden them for hundreds of thousands of miles and swear by them. So I think I've made the right choice. But the other thing about the DR650, and only bike riders will, and well, maybe everyone else will understand, like I said about the Honda CB500X, the engine was just sort of underwhelming. Once I'd ridden the DR650 for a bit, it just felt right. And I know this might sound stupid, but you sort of feel a bit of a connection, a bit of a chemistry to certain bikes. You just gel with them. And the DR650, it sounds cool, it feels cool, it's basic, it's easy to fix. It was just, yeah, this is the bike for me. I'm sure the Yamaha T7 is a much better bike. It's a very tall bike, and it's 40 kilos heavier than this, so it's not the bike for me. Honda have also put out a new bike this year, didn't come out till a few months ago, called the 750 Transalp. That's also an amazing bike. Maybe the T7 or the Transalp will be the next bike for me, but I'm utterly convinced that, that this bike here is the one to take around the world for a year and a half, and hopefully it's not going to have a major breakdown. If it is, we'll just have to deal with that on the way. So far, a guy named Miller, who connected with me on Facebook, he's given me hours and hours of his time. Shout out to you, Miller. We've pulled the carby off because it was running a bit lumpy. We've changed tyres. He's taught me a whole lot of stuff, so massive thanks to Miller. And yeah, it really is a cool bike, even though it's what they call a thumper. A thumper is a single cylinder engine, which goes thump, 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 obviously, as opposed to 2 or 4 cylinders that hum a bit nicer. You get more vibration from a thumper, but it just feels more agricultural, if you like. And I like that. I might hate it after 10,000 kilometers or 20,000 or 50,000 kilometers. I'm hoping that I'll be a good enough rider to upgrade to a T7 or a Transalp after this ride. If I still want to ride motorcycles after riding from one side of the world to the other, I might never want to see another motorcycle again. Who knows? It's all part of the journey. But yeah, really loving this bike so far, and looking forward to doing some test rides. I've done one little overnight camping ride on it, which was fun. The camping wasn't so fun because it was cold and my sleeping bag was a massive fail, so need to address that. But I'll be doing some short trips soon, which I will be posting and updating you on, and hopefully I won't be freezing my ass off. So that'll be something cool to do. And yeah, I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything in terms of choosing the motorcycle. So hope you enjoyed that, and hope those of you that are looking at getting into adventure motorcycling and have never ridden an off-road bike before, hope there's something interesting in there for you. It may sound obvious, but if I can summarize, do lots of research on the internet and, you know, crunch the numbers and look at the reviews and all that, but just get out there and ride a lot of different bikes. One thing I did wrong was probably not ride the bikes long enough. I mean, you can't really get a feel for an adventure bike just riding it around the block. You do really need to take it into some shingle, into some fire roads, some dirt roads, and get a feel for it. Try not to drop it. The dealers don't like that, or the people that are selling the bike don't like that. So pretty obvious bit of advice. But yeah, it's just a process of trial and error, and you might go through a few bikes before you find the one that's right for you. So yeah, get stuck into it, get out there, have fun, and see you in the next video. Cheers.